Hello there, good morning everyone. This video is all about addiction. So if you're struggling with addiction or you've been through addiction or you know someone who is, then definitely share this video with them, and this is a perfect video for you. This is the best video I've ever seen about addiction and food and the relationship with food and how food can help you fight and overcome an addiction. This is from one of my personal mentors who's helped me overcome my addictions, my food addiction, which was the biggest one, and several other of my addictions, including alcohol and many other people that I know with alcohol addictions, and a lot of them. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. This video is absolutely powerful, and remember to share this with anyone that you think needs to see this, that this will resonate with.
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Sandoval. I am one of the founders of an incredible community, an organization, and yes, a business as well, an incredible, heartfelt and holistic business model that we call the Purium lifestyle and the Purium economy. And, you know, it's really, it's a fun time. These Wednesdays, I used to say, my mom used to make sure that we all were together at least once a week for dinner. Despite football or soccer or track, despite overtime or family events or church or whatever it might be, there was always one night a week that everybody in the family had to be around that table to share all of our thoughts. And I try to consider this my time with you. That one time per week I get to be with my Purium family. And, you know, even though it's a little bit of a one-way conversation, I want to remind you that on the third weekend of every month now, I'm going to be answering your questions that you send in, and we'll put a type form in the comments before this is over that you can actually send in a question and know that I'll answer your question most likely not this coming, but on the third Wednesday of the month. And so once again, my name's David Sandoval, and we are here because of Purium, and Purium is new to some of you. And if it is, I want to remind you that it's a combination of two words, pure and premium, okay? Pure and premium are two words that describe the food and the quality of the food that I believe that we must eat because of our philosophy. And our philosophy is a lot deeper than this, but it could be summed up in these few words, that the quality of the life that you will live, your longevity, your wellness, and even your mental wellness, as well as your happiness, are directly related to the quality of the food you eat. Directly related to the quality of the food you eat. Whether you get enough sleep, whether you stay hydrated, whether you are nourished at the cellular level, whether your gut is working properly, whether your brain is working properly. These are critical factors that Purium is dedicated to helping people to understand and to manage, okay? Now, we don't play doctor. We are not doctors, and we're not believing that we could cure, treat, or mitigate any disease. But we also have another philosophy, okay, that 95% of what you consider symptoms possibly, I call discomforts. And a discomfort is different from a dis-ease, okay? I believe that 95% of your discomforts are actually a result of a dysbiosis in your system, okay? That means that it's not working right. Your gut isn't working right. Your brain isn't nourished and not making proper contact with your gut. The two brains, the brain-gut connection cannot be denied. And so in the Purium lifestyle, we strongly believe that the quality of the food that you eat will dramatically impact the quality of the life that you live. Again, the way you look, the way that you feel, the way that you perform, and the way that you age. And so with all of this in mind, I want to say again, 95% of your discomforts are not disease. They are dysbiosis. It means that your body is not functioning the way that God and Mother Nature intended it to. So let's take care of that. Let's get back into symbiosis, okay? Let's get back, okay, into that so that we can see what's really going on. Well, guess what? Tonight we have a super cool subject, and I want to invite you to share it again. It's about habits, it's about addictions, what the difference is, and how you can put yourself on the road back to change. Okay? What is the difference? We're going to get to that in a minute. How can Purium help? We're going to get to that in a minute. But I want to share a tiny bit of history that there was a time where one of the most successful authors and one of the most successful practitioners in addiction recovery, okay, was being interviewed on a show called Donahoe. Donahoe was the original Oprah, okay? This was years ago, 20 plus years ago. And they said, you have the highest rate, okay? The lowest recidivism of addicts. Your recovery rate is 4 times higher than programs like 12-step programs and other addiction recovery programs. And that means that once people have been through your program, do they backslide? Do they go back to their behaviors? Well, this program was 4 times more effective than any other program at the time. And he said, well, I'd like to take credit, but real credit has to be given to, and he holds up a bottle of the product that we make, the green drink that we make, the Kamut drink that we still make to this day. And he said, this is the secret to my success. I make sure that those who take 3 servings a day of this, 3 to 5 servings a day, are far more likely, twice, 3 times, 4, 5 times more likely to succeed in my program. And they asked him, what is it? He said, well, it's this funny green juice made by, and he didn't say my name, but he said, made by this company. And he said, here's the reason why it works. So everybody pay a little bit of attention here. He said that your blood glucose, and we now know this because this is 20 plus years ago, your blood glucose must stay within a certain healthy range, because if you have too much glucose, obviously that's a big problem. And if you have too little glucose, then you get these irresistible urges and these cravings, okay? And so you either have a hyper or hypo, okay, glucose levels in your body, too high or too low. And each of those, whether your blood glucose is too high or too low, actually triggers the addictive behavior. You associate this change in blood sugar with your need for the drug, the alcohol, or the habit that you have become, obviously impacted by. And so he said that when you keep the blood glucose in a certain range, in a very tight range, and it doesn't get hyper or hypoglycemic, then you are going to have far greater ability, stability, and of course, success rate. And this was my first time hearing that superfoods, like the ones that we're offering the world, the very superfoods, in fact, that we're offering the world, with our brand and our label and our packaging right on this show called Donahoe. And this was my first insight that maybe we were onto something for people. But I didn't think at that time about addicts. I thought about this stabilizing blood glucose thing and how important that might be to diabetics, okay? But for the purpose of this call, I want to remind you that there's a difference between habits. There's a difference between a habit and a dependency. And there's a difference between a dependency and an addiction. And the line might seem fairly thin, but as my Christian grandmother used to say, it's a slippery slope. Okay, so here's how habits form. Habits form when you do anything for 90 or 100 days in a row consistently. It doesn't have to be every single day, but it's close to it. and it becomes every single day. So at first, the habit is just something you do consistently over 90 or 100 days. Now, if you start needing to do that every single day and multiple times a day, then that's called a dependency. Okay, that means you become dependent upon it, that if you don't have it, then you feel like something's missing in your life, and you'll do things to get it. You'll go to the store, you'll walk a mile, then it starts to impact your life. So a dependency is the halfway point between a habit and an addiction. Are you guys following me? So if you have a behavior, okay, if you have a behavior that harms you physically, mentally, or emotionally, if it starts to be something that is a cause of a problem in your life, and you can't stop doing it, then it has progressed from a habit to a dependency. And then on that dependency level, you start getting grumpy if you know you're not going to have it, even before you need it. You could be having a beer, but knowing it's your last beer, and already be angry knowing there's not going to be another beer to come. The same thing with the cigarette, the same thing with sugar, the same thing with the video game. It's not just physical. There's also mental addiction, okay? So when you're impacted negatively by something, then obviously, if it has become an addiction and it's impacting you negatively, this means that you're repetitively damaging yourself and you can't stop. You need to seek help, okay? It doesn't mean that help needs to be in the form of a person. It could be in the form of self-help, of a lifestyle change. And for that purpose, I want to reintroduce you to the reason we have what is called, now I'm gonna give you guys 30 seconds. What is it that Purium has that helps you deal with changing bad habits into good habits? Did somebody already put the ULT in there? But it's not just the ULT. It's the 90-day way. Somebody did it. I saw it. It was about the 5th comment. Somebody put the 90-day way. So do you understand? Because of this call, I'd rarely get a chance to really lean into this whole 90-day way thing. Okay? The 90-day way is very, very specific. We want you for 90 days to make a commitment to totally saturate your body with superfoods. Superfood saturation for 90 days will erase so many bad habits and so many dependencies as well. Okay? That's right. Now I'm going to get into something else I didn't know at the time that I saw this doctor on the show. He was saying that the reason it worked was because of the blood glucose stability. But little did he know that there was even more to it than that. Because in my study of Ayurvedic, principles, we have learned that when you have foods that are considered bitter, things like our natural vitamin C, our C from nature, has all these bitter berries and herbs in it, like amalaki. Our power shake and our green drinks have all these bitter greens in them. Okay? The tart cherry, the bitter cherry that we drink at night. So, but the greens, the greens are bitters. They don't just alkalize. They don't just stabilize blood glucose. They actually stop cravings according to Ayurvedic principles. Now, the least expensive way to do this and the most potent way to do this is to take a scoop of green spectrum and add it to your power shake 2 to 3 times a day. Okay, 1 little scoop of green spectrum added to your power shake 2 to 3 times a day. Now remember that there's a reason we designed the Core 4 and the 90-day way, the ULT. These 4 key products, okay? The super aminos to create lean protein. So many cravings are actually protein cravings. Some of them are fat cravings. Some of them are sugar cravings. But all cravings end with bitters. Cravings end with stable blood glucose. Cravings end with rhythmic eating, deep sleep, and gut health. So do you realize that the Core 4 ULT 90-day way, this is so very specific to helping your body overcome habits and dependencies. The constant and consistent intake of bitters over the course of the day is phenomenal. But guess what? It gets even better. It gets even better. Katie, in the comments, tell me how many minutes we have left. I want to see if I have time to introduce them to Jim Harper and the road back. All right. So check this out. We have plenty of time. Okay. So check it out. A few years back, we started getting orders from nowhere. We had no idea where they were coming from. And the people were ordering C from Nature, Apothecary, Love Super Meal, and the Green Spectrum and Power Shake. 4 Purium superfoods. It isn't what is in our Core 4, and we were very confused. We're like, they keep calling on the phone and saying, we need those 4 products for addiction. And we kept thinking they meant the Core 4, but then we heard about this book. This book written by this super cool dude. His name is James or Jim Harper. And Jim Harper introduced me to a concept I had never heard of before. It was fascinating. Now, I want to let you know that Jim Harper is a Scientologist, and I don't judge. I learned something from all people. See, Scientologists are dead against vaccinations. They're dead against pharmaceutical addictions. They're dead against all of these things that I can relate to on some level. Okay? And so I wanted to hear more of what he had to say. And he said he was so dedicated to getting people off of psychotropic drugs because he saw so many suicides and murders as a result of them. And I'm just telling you, these were his words, not mine. That he knew he had to do something to help these people. So he studied and he prayed and he searched. And he found out some fascinating information. He found out that when you become addicted to a substance, that substance has now created its own metabolic pathway and metabolic receptor sites within your brain. That means it already knows how to move from your stomach to your brain. It has a private lane to do so. And these metabolic highways and receptor sites would only accept the substance that you're addicted to. There are no substitutions for the substance until now. See, James or Jim, he found out that certain fats, okay, like the ones in flaxseed, certain nutrients like the ones in our all-natural, whole plant-based, okay, vitamin C, none of that ascorbic acid baloney. He found that the bitters in the greens, that's right, and the melatonin and the natural calming effect of the tart cherry, that these things, along with the green spectrum, of course, now we have fruits, vegetables, fats, right? Fruits, vegetables, fats, and protein, but in his program, vitamin C. So the C from nature. And he said that each of these filled a specific metabolic pathway and then cause that pathway to get narrower and narrower and narrower. Now, because his drug addiction program is a tapered program where you don't stop cold turkey, you actually slowly reduce the amount of the drug that you are addicted to and replace its effect with superfoods. He was having results that were above 50%. Now remember, a 12-step program is about 7% effective. The one on Donahoe was about 28% effective. Sometimes, 28 to 30. This was over 50% effective. Okay? Now, the only thing that I could say is that I'm not a doctor. This is not my research. I am a reporter who's thrilled to death that over 1,000 centers for addiction recovery at one time were ordering these products from us directly and telling their customers, their clients, to do the same. Now, of course, over time, they decided to make their own brands and to have their own label so that people didn't get confused. But nonetheless, the information's out there. It's free for us all to use. And that book is fascinating. It really is. So I'm not here to promote the book. I wouldn't make a dime if I did. Haven't spoken to Mr. Harper in over 10 years. But I'll tell you, that book still, to me, is fascinating. And it's something that you may want to recommend if you know people suffering from addiction in that way. So, the Purium lifestyle was actually, again, if you look at it, we were already here. This is National Addiction Recovery Month, in case I didn't mention that. National Addiction Recovery Month. And we're going to lean into it. Next week's show is going to be dedicated. I'm going to go into more detail with a little bit more science. But I want to remind you that it's not complicated, that we can overcome our habits. Now, there was once a saying that said, habits don't start without thoughts. So when you have consistent thoughts, then those consistent thoughts ultimately translate into an action. If you think over and over and over about what it might be like to drive 120 miles an hour, one day you're going to find yourself driving 120 miles an hour. If you keep thinking over and over and over what it would be like to pick that scab, you're going to pick that scab, okay? Regardless of what that scab represents. And so we've got to be very careful of our thoughts, okay? We have to be very careful of our thoughts because that's where this starts. So the final product I want to tell you about is Pineal Clear. Pineal Clear is our newest product with the exception of Menopositive, which is specifically for women and specifically for hormonal issues. But Pineal Clear is for everyone. Pineal Clear was specifically designed to support a healthy, functioning pineal gland. Now, some people will say, oh, it decalcifies the pineal gland. I don't know that. There's no clinical proof of it. But I guarantee you this. All of the things that your pineal gland does are better after you take this, period. Your concentration, your memory, your recall, your reaction time. Okay. Not to mention your ability to see life and things and people clearer than you ever have before. And that includes yourself and the decisions that you're making and where those decisions are impacting your life negatively. So when does a habit become an addiction? I'm testing you. When does a habit become an addiction? Once it impacts you negatively and you cannot stop. Okay? So the habit will become something that you can't stop doing, and it changes you. You start from going and doing it regularly to doing it daily to doing it multiple times daily, possibly. You get angry and upset if you can't do that thing. You start lashing out at other people as well because of your displeasure, knowing that you're not going to get that thing that you have become habitually addicted to. And that's when you know it's impacting your life and the lives of others around you. I know. I grew up and I have, okay, the MTHFR gene in my family. I come from a long line of people who are addicted to gambling, people are addicted to alcohol, people are addicted to sex. All of that is in my lineage. And I'm aware of it, and I live consciously. And Purium has helped me immensely to not be any of those people, but to be me at the highest level that I possibly can be. And I want that for you as well. So this is not a criticism, and this is not in any way a judgment. This is an invitation for you to recognize those things that might be harming you, okay? Recognize those things, those habits, those dependencies, those addictions, and just ask Great Creator to help guide you away from those, okay? If you're a prayerful person, because there's no greater accountability partner, okay, then that's right. Then that great Creator who is always wanting the best for us. So make that commitment, to yourself. Make that commitment to learn more about these products that might help you, to learn more about these behaviors that might hurt you, and to know that Purium is never sitting in judgment. Purium is here always because we want to help you. So thank you, Katie, for supporting us tonight. Thank you, everybody who took the time to be on this call. And remember that you could share this call, that it's being broadcast on Facebook, my personal page. It's being broadcast on the Purium page. And I want you to share this. I want you to let others know, that this information is here, that it will be archived, that it will be available, and it will be evergreen. So thank you to all for joining us. I'm not sure how many of us there were tonight, but I'm really happy that you did join. And we'll see you again next week for part 2, where we go more in depth, and then Q&A on the third Wednesday. And of course, my favorite is Q&A and testimonial time, the third and fourth week of the month. So many blessings to you, so much love to you, so much support in your personal journey and your personal challenge to form better habits, because habits are really cool when they're good, okay? But when they start to control your life, then they become negatively impacting you and the people around you. This is drugs, alcohol, tobacco, addiction to porn, all these other things. They're real. And we can't be afraid to look the other way. We can't be afraid to judge and sit in judgment of human beings with human problems. And we have plant-based solutions. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all so much. Until next week, we'll see you then.